Malls are supposed to be the safest places you can spend your evening in. Bright lights, constant security, families everywhere. But the truth is, malls have dark corners, back rooms nobody talks about, and people who walk in with intentions you'd never expect. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 disturbing true mall horror stories, stories that prove even the busiest places can hide the scariest danger. So, sit back, turn off the lights if you dare, and let's get into it. Story 1. The man who followed me through the mall. This happened when I was 17. It was a Saturday evening, and the mall near my house was insanely crowded. Kids running around, families shopping, couples walking hand in hand. I'd gone alone because I wanted to buy a gift for my cousin's birthday. I didn't realize at that moment that someone had already set their eyes on me. I first noticed him near the food court. He wasn't doing anything strange at first, just staring. Not the casual glance type of stare. I mean the kind that makes your skin crawl immediately. He was in his mid-30s maybe, with messy hair and a long jacket even though it was hot outside. His eyes were half open like he was exhausted or high, but his stare was sharp, too sharp. I ignored him and walked into a store. When I turned around a minute later, he was right outside the entrance, just standing there, still staring. That was the first time I felt something was wrong. I left the store quickly and blended with the crowd, or at least I thought I did. I went into another store, pretending to browse. A few moments later, there he was again, standing near the doorway, his eyes scanning the shop until they landed on me. That time, he smiled, not a friendly smile, a slow, unsettling one. My heart started beating fast, but I didn't want to panic, so I walked straight to a random section of the store and pretended to look at shoes. I didn't even care about the shoes. I just wanted him to lose sight of me. But when I turned my head, he was inside the store now, not hiding, not pretending to shop, just walking slowly toward the aisle I was in. Something in his expression looked hungry, like he had already decided something about me. I immediately walked out of the store, forcing myself not to run. I didn't know where I was even going. I just wanted a lot of people around me. I headed toward the escalator. As I went down, I looked up. He was at the top, still watching me. I sped up, squeezing through the crowd. At one point, I turned into a random hallway because I spotted a restroom sign and thought I could lose him there. Big mistake. The hallway was almost empty, dim, quiet. I was halfway through when my stomach twisted. I heard footsteps behind me, slow at first, then getting quicker. I didn't want to look back, but I had to. It was him, walking fast, eyes focused on me like prey. I ran. I pushed into the women's restroom and hid in the last stall, standing on the toilet so he couldn't see my feet. A moment later, the door opened. I heard his shoes drag across the tiles. Slowly, one step at a time. He wasn't supposed to be in there, but he didn't care. At that point, my hands were shaking uncontrollably. I was breathing so quietly I thought I might pass out. I watched through the crack of the stall door as he stopped right in front of the stalls. He stood there, listening, and then he spoke. Not loudly, not angrily, just in a low, calm voice that made me want to scream. "I know you're in here." He breathed out heavily. I heard him walk past my stall, then pause, then come back. He pushed gently on the door of the first stall, then the second, the third. I covered my mouth as tears rolled down my face. He reached mine. He pushed the door softly. When it didn't open, he whispered, "Don't make this hard for me." I swear I felt my legs go numb. I don't know how long he stayed there. It felt like forever. Then suddenly, a woman's voice echoed from outside. "Hello? Anyone inside? Mall security?" The man froze. I heard his quick footsteps rushing out of the bathroom. I stayed hidden until the female security guard called again. When I came out, I broke down crying as she hugged me. She had seen the man enter the women's restroom and had followed immediately. Security tracked him through the cameras, but he vanished through the parking lot and was never caught. To this day, I still think about one thing. If that guard had been 10 seconds late, what would have happened to me? Story 2. The night shift at the closed mall. I used to work security at a mall 3 years ago, and out of all the shifts available, the overnight shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. was the worst. You'd think it was boring, just empty hallways and silence, but that's not what made it bad. There were things that happened in that mall after closing, things I still can't fully explain. I remember one night in particular. It was a Thursday. The mall was completely empty. The cleaning crew had already finished, and it was just me and another guard stationed near the control room. My job was to walk the mall floor every hour for routine checks. At around 2:10 a.m., I started my patrol. The hallways were dark except for emergency lights, and everything echoed. My footsteps, the distant hum of the air conditioning, the slight buzzing of old lights. I started near the clothing stores first. Everything was normal, but when I reached the corridor near the kids' arcade, I heard something. A faint clicking sound, like a token machine being used, followed by a childish giggle. I froze. There shouldn't be anyone in that arcade. Power to the machines was turned off every night. The giggle came again. I slowly walked forward, shining my flashlight into the arcade. All the machines were off. Everything was still. But one of the machines, a small kiddie ride shaped like a cartoon airplane, was moving, rocking back and forth as if a child was sitting on it, except the power cord was unplugged. I stepped back, confused. Was someone hiding inside? Mall security. I shouted, "Come out if someone's in there." No answer. I radioed my partner but got no reply. That wasn't normal. Radios worked everywhere in the mall. I walked around the ride and yelled again. Nothing. I took a picture of the ride, planning to show it to my supervisor later, and continued my patrol. A few minutes later, I reached the escalators. They were off for the night too. But suddenly, I heard footsteps coming from upstairs. Light, quick, like someone running. I waited, expecting the steps to come down the escalator, but they didn't. They stayed at the top, just pacing back and forth. I went up the stairs on the side, and when I reached the second floor, the sound stopped instantly, like whoever it was had heard me coming. I shined my flashlight across the upper level. Everything was empty. But then, I saw something that made my whole body tense, all the way down the hall, just barely visible in the dim light. A figure, small, like a kid, standing perfectly still in front of one of the closed doors. "Hey," I shouted. "You can't be up here." The figure didn't move. I walked closer, heart pounding. My footsteps echoed loudly across the empty hall. When I got within maybe 20 meters, the figure turned around and bolted into the darkness behind the store pillars. I ran after it, but when I turned the corner, there was nobody. No exit door, no maintenance door, no hiding place. Just a solid wall and a locked emergency door that needed a key. I pressed my hand to the door, cold, untouched. That's when my radio finally crackled. "Hey man, where are you? I've been calling for you." I told him what had just happened, and he told me to return to the control room immediately. When I got inside, he was staring at the security monitors. His face was pale. "Look at this," he said. He rewound the camera feed of the second floor. We watched the footage. My flashlight, my shadow, me shouting. But the kid, the running, the figure standing at the end of the hall, none of it was there. It was just me, alone. "Maybe camera glitch?" I asked, my voice shaking. He swallowed hard. "Check this." He rewound the feed to when I first entered the arcade. We both went quiet. The airplane kiddie ride. It wasn't moving in the video, not even a little, but we clearly remembered it rocking back and forth. After that night, I refused to do the overnight shift again, and after a few more incidents, the mall quietly stopped running night shifts altogether, switching to motion alarms and automated systems instead. Whatever was in that mall at night, I hope it stays there. Story 3. The employee who never clocked out. This last story isn't mine, but it was told to me by someone who worked in mall management for over 15 years. He said it was the one event that made him quit the job entirely. It happened in 2018 at a multi-level mall in a big city, the kind of mall with a cinema, luxury stores, a food court, and a bunch of employees working late shifts. One of those employees was a young woman named Maya, who worked at a small accessory shop on the upper floor. She was quiet, polite, and always showed up on time. She worked the evening shift until 9:30 p.m. when the mall started closing. But one night, she didn't clock out. When she didn't clock out, the system automatically flagged her, and the mall's night supervisor, Daniel, was notified. Normally, that meant the employee forgot to swipe or left early, but Daniel decided to check anyway since the shop owners weren't answering their phones. He walked to the accessory shop at around 10 p.m. The gates were halfway closed. The lights were still on inside. Something felt off immediately. "Maya," he called out, "mall's closed. Are you still inside?" No response. He crouched and looked under the half-closed gate. All he could see were the shelves and the counter. No movement. He rolled up the gate halfway and stepped inside. The shop looked perfectly normal. No sign of anything knocked over, no sign of struggle, nothing. Except for one thing. Maya's bag, her purse, her phone, all still sitting behind the counter. Daniel sighed, assuming she must have gone to the washroom or to get a drink. But procedure required him to check the CCTV before closing the shop. So he locked the gate, headed downstairs to the security office, and pulled up the camera feed from the accessory store. The footage made his stomach sink. 9:32 p.m. Maya was behind the counter, restocking a few small items. 9:34 p.m. She walked toward the back storage area. 9:35 p.m. The curtain to the storage room moved slightly. 9:36 p.m. She stepped back out, looking confused. 9:37 p.m. She froze, not like she was scared, more like she was listening for something. Daniel leaned closer to the monitor. 9:38 p.m. Maya turned her head sharply to the right, as if someone whispered in her ear. But the footage had no audio. She walked toward the front of the store, peeking into the mall hallway. Then she walked out of the store. Daniel switched to the mall hallway camera. What he saw wasn't comforting. Maya stepped out slowly, cautiously, looking left and right. Then she looked over her shoulder, straight behind her. Except no one was there. She took a few hesitant steps into the mall hallway. Then she turned sharply left and walked out of frame. That was the last footage of her. There were no cameras on the far side of that hallway, something Daniel had been complaining about for years. He rewound the footage again, frame by frame. Nothing followed her. No one approached her. No one else was in that hallway. And yet, her expression said loud and clear that she wasn't alone. Daniel called the mall's emergency line and alerted the night security team. Together, they began a full sweep of the mall. The building was huge, but it was usually easy to tell if someone was inside after hours. Footsteps echoed. Doors creaked loudly. Lights flickered on with motion sensors. But that night, the entire mall felt dead, silent. As if it were holding its breath, they split into 3 groups. Group A took the basement level. Group B checked the first 2 floors. Group C, which Daniel led, covered the upper floors and back hallways. It took only a few minutes for something strange to happen. Radio static, just static. Pure buzzing noise crackling through all their radios at the same time. That never happened before. Daniel tapped his radio. "Control, do you copy?" More static. One of the guards tried his radio too. Nothing. Then the basement team's radio picked up something. Not a voice. Not static this time. Something else. A faint, rhythmic tapping. Like metal hitting concrete. Tap, 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 tap. Slow, uneven, and echoing. "Basement team report," Daniel said loudly, his voice tense. No reply. Only the tapping. And then it stopped abruptly. Dead silence again. Daniel and his group rushed toward the escalators, heading down to the next floor. That was when something even more disturbing happened. Every motion sensor light on the floor they were on turned on at the same time. Dozens of lights, all triggering at once. But there was no movement, no shadows, no sign of anyone walking. It felt like something was moving around them so fast that the sensors couldn't track it individually. One guard whispered, "Sir, I don't think we should split up anymore." Daniel agreed immediately and radioed all groups to regroup, though he knew the radios weren't working. As they reached the second floor, the tapping sound returned, but this time it was coming from above them, from the upper atrium. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate. They shined their flashlights upward, scanning the railings and ceiling. Nothing. But the sound grew louder, faster, more aggressive. Tap, 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 tap. Then it stopped. A guard muttered, "What the hell is happening?" Daniel suddenly remembered the service corridors. Long, narrow maintenance hallways behind the stores where staff could move between back rooms. The place was a maze, barely lit, and easy to get lost in. He had a terrible feeling Maya might have gone in there. They headed toward the nearest service door and pushed it open. It was pitch black and freezing cold, much colder than the rest of the mall. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing narrow concrete hallways lined with pipes and electrical boxes. "Call out for her," Daniel ordered. The guard shouted, "Maya, are you here? Hello? Anyone inside?" Their voices echoed endlessly, too endlessly, like the hallway was larger than it should be. As they advanced deeper, the temperature dropped even more. Then they saw something on the floor, a shoe, a small black flat shoe, Maya's. Daniel's heart pounded. They moved faster now, turning corner after corner. Then one guard yelled, "Sir, look." Up ahead, the hallway lights began turning on one by one. Pop, 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 as if something was running through the corridor, activating each sensor light in sequence. But again, no visible person, no shadow, no sound. Daniel shouted, "Stop, who's there?" The final light at the end of the hallway flickered, and they saw it. A silhouette, thin, lanky, unmoving. It stood completely still facing them, but something felt wrong. It wasn't the size of a normal adult, and the way the shoulders slanted, the way the head leaned. It looked almost distorted. One guard raised his flashlight slightly. The light hit the silhouette, and the silhouette moved its head. Not like a normal turn. It tilted, slowly, all the way to the side, until the head was almost horizontal. Then the light shut off. All of them. The entire service hallway dropped into darkness. One guard screamed. Daniel yelled, back out now." They spun around and ran full speed back toward the exit door, the echo of their boots bouncing off the concrete walls. Behind them, something else began running. Fast. Too fast. It didn't sound like footsteps, more like a scraping, sliding, sprinting sound. They hit the service door, pushed it open, and stumbled out into the main mall hallway, slamming it shut behind them. One guard started crying. Another was gasping for breath. Daniel locked the service door and backed away. He didn't want to know what was behind it now. They regrouped by the security office. Something was happening. Something far beyond a missing employee. Then came the worst part. They checked the cameras again. Every hallway, every floor, no sign of Maya, but the last camera, the one pointing at the service door they just fled from, showed something chilling. A shadow, just a shadow, looming directly behind the small window on the door. Then it slowly faded out of view. Daniel stared at that shadow on the camera screen longer than he should have. It looked human, but at the same time it didn't. The proportions were slightly off, too tall and too narrow, and the way it faded wasn't natural. It didn't turn or step away. It just dissolved. One guard whispered, "Sir, we need to call the police." Daniel grabbed the phone immediately, but the line was dead. The mall system shouldn't fail like that. The phones, radios, even the emergency call line, all dead at the same time. No way that was a coincidence. He turned to the guards. "We're doing one last full sweep. Then we leave. No one splits up. Stay in sight at all times." The guards nodded nervously. They started from the first floor, checking every store, restroom, hallway, employee lounge, and emergency stairwell. Nothing. Not a trace of Maya. But something else started happening. They kept hearing footsteps, sometimes from the floor above them, sometimes behind them, sometimes inside a closed door. But every time they went toward the sound, it stopped. At one point, Daniel shined his flashlight down an empty hallway and swore he saw the corner of a long dark sleeve disappear behind a wall. Not a uniform, not mall clothing, something old-fashioned, something out of place. The guards saw it too. One whispered shakily, "That's not a person. I'm telling you, whatever this is, it's not human." Daniel didn't want to admit it out loud, but he agreed. Everything about tonight was wrong. They moved up to the second floor. As they reached the food court, a loud metallic clang echoed from the back kitchen area. Everyone froze. It sounded like a pot falling onto metal flooring, but way too forceful, almost like someone threw it. Daniel motioned for them to follow. They approached the dark kitchen area slowly, flashlights shaking in their hands. As they stepped inside, the air turned cold again, unnaturally cold. They swept their lights across the empty grills, counters, and metal shelves. Then, something moved behind a freezer door. Not opened, not swung, just moved. A subtle vibration, like someone was leaning against it from the inside. Tap, tap, tap. Soft tapping. One guard stepped forward and placed his hand on the freezer handle. The tapping stopped instantly. Daniel whispered urgently, "Don't open that." The guard stepped back, nodding silently. They backed out of the kitchen, trying not to make a sound. As soon as they stepped into the hallway, all the lights above them turned off. Every single one pitch black. Then a whisper, a clear, sharp exhale-like whisper, came from right behind Daniel's ear. "Maya." He whipped around, but nothing was there. Just darkness. The guards panicked. One started yelling into his dead radio. Another backed against the wall, swinging his flashlight wildly. Daniel grabbed them both, forcing them to keep moving. They made their way toward the escalator, navigating only with their flashlights. Then, something ran across the hallway ahead of them. Too fast, too thin, too long. It darted from one store entrance to the other like a shadow jumping between walls. All of them screamed. One guard dropped his flashlight, and the moment it hit the floor, the light flickered, then turned off completely. "Gio, move," Daniel yelled. They ran to the escalator, practically throwing themselves onto it, stumbling down to the ground floor. But the moment they reached the bottom, the escalator behind them turned on by itself. It hummed loudly, the rubber steps rolling upward, even though the mall had been closed for over an hour and all escalators had been shut down. Daniel froze. The escalator was moving upward toward the second floor where they just came from. And on the escalator, they saw something, a shape, standing perfectly still, not moving, not riding the escalator, just standing on the steps as the escalator carried it up. Tall, thin, head slightly tilted, facing them. One guard yelled and ran. The others followed. Daniel ran too, but he couldn't stop looking back. The figure reached the top of the escalator, and just before the escalator carried it out of view, its head turned toward him. Fast, violent, like a snap. Daniel nearly fell over as he fled toward the main entrance. They reached the glass doors. Mall entrances always locked automatically at closing time, and security had to unlock them manually at the panel. The panel was at the other end of the floor. Behind them, in the dark, Daniel cursed under his breath. "Stay together. No matter what you see, do not run alone." They moved as a tight group, flashlights pointed in every direction. But as they reached the security panel, something new appeared. A sound from the far end of the mall, not tapping, not footsteps, but humming. A low, eerie humming sound, like someone gently singing without opening their mouth. Rising and falling in pitch, growing louder, getting closer. One guard covered his ears. "What the hell is that?" Daniel didn't waste a second. He slammed the override button on the panel. The locks disengaged with a loud click. "Yo!" he shouted. They burst through the main doors, running into the empty parking lot. But Daniel stopped just outside the entrance. He couldn't leave without doing one more thing. He turned around and looked back through the glass. The interior was dark, silent, empty. He took one step forward and froze. A face appeared on the other side of the glass door, not pressed against it, not peeking, just suddenly there. A pale face with hollow eyes and a mouth that hung slightly open like the jaw was loose. Its head tilted almost 45 degrees, and its neck looked stretched, too long, too thin. Daniel stumbled backward. The lights inside the mall flickered, and behind that pale face, deeper inside the dark hallway, he thought he saw Maya standing there. Just standing, perfectly still, staring at him. But her head was also tilted, her arms were limp at her sides, and her expression was blank, completely empty, like she was sleepwalking, like she wasn't even alive. The guard pulled Daniel back. "Sir, leave IT." Daniel. They didn't stop running until they reached the far end of the lot, near the main road, and only then did the humming stop. Only then did all the mall lights shut off at once. Pitch black. Silent. Dead. The guards called the police with their personal phones now that they had signal again. The police arrived within minutes. But by the time officers entered the mall, Maya was gone, and so was whatever they saw. The service hallway had no footprints, no signs of forced entry, no sign of any intruder. But they did find something. Maya's other shoe, lying neatly in the center of the food court, like someone placed it there deliberately. The CCTV footage from that night was eventually turned over to authorities, but Daniel said the police never found anything. No suspect, no leads, no explanation, and Maya was never found. Her family held a memorial without a body. Daniel quit the job 2 weeks later. He said every time he drove near the mall, he felt watched, like something was waiting for him to step inside again. And 2 of the guards who witnessed that night, they refused to ever work night shifts again. Some people believe the mall was haunted long before that night. Some say an old factory burned down on that land in the late 70s, and the souls trapped in the fire still linger. But Daniel believes something else. He believes it wasn't the mall that was haunted. He believes whatever took Maya was already inside before they ever built the mall. Something that never left. Something that still wanders the hallways after closing time, and maybe still waits for someone to walk alone in the dark, so it can whisper their name, the way it whispered Maya's. Daniel didn't sleep for days after the incident. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that pale figure behind the glass, and Maya standing behind it, frozen like a puppet with its strings cut. He kept replaying it in his head. Why did the radios die? Why did the escalator turn on? Why did the shadows move like they were alive? And most of all, why did that thing whisper Maya's name? He tried to find a rational explanation. He tried to tell himself he was exhausted, stressed, hallucinating. But the other guards saw it too, and one of them, the youngest, Ravi, came to Daniel a few days later, looking shaken. "Sir, I didn't know if I should tell you this, but something's wrong." Daniel looked at him. "What do you mean?" Ravi held up his phone. It was a screenshot from the mall's internal time clock system. The timestamp was from the night Maya disappeared, and under her employee ID, it showed a clock-out time. The problem, she never clocked out. The entire reason Daniel went searching for her was because she was missing before she could clock out. Daniel's stomach dropped. "When was this clock-out recorded?" he asked. Ravi swallowed hard. 2 hours after we left the mall. That made no sense. No one was inside the building by then. Not staff, not guards, not Daniel. The police had already sealed the place. Someone had to physically press the button, Daniel muttered. "The system doesn't allow remote clock outs." Ravi nodded slowly. "I know. That's why I'm scared." Daniel took a deep breath. "Does anyone else know about this?" Ravi shook his head. "No, sir. I didn't show anyone. I was afraid they'd think I'm imagining things." Daniel stared at the screenshot again, zooming in on the timestamp. 2:58 a.m. That was roughly the same time the humming stopped and the mall lights shut off entirely. Was Maya alive at that moment? Was someone else using her ID? Or was whatever took her trying to mimic her? Daniel suddenly felt cold all over. Ravi hesitated, then added something even more disturbing. "Sir, there's another screenshot too." He pulled up a second image. This one wasn't from the time clock system. It was from the mall's internal messaging board, a communication portal for employees to send quick notes to supervisors. The message was sent from Maya's account, sent at 3:01 a.m. "Mall is cold. Please come back." Daniel felt his breath hitch. "That's impossible," he whispered. He remembered the temperature dropping that night, unnaturally cold, enough to make breath fog indoors. But the message, Ravi zoomed in on it. There's no typing trail, he said quietly. No IP address. No device signature. It shouldn't be possible without logging into a terminal. Daniel frowned. Which terminal was used? Ravi swallowed again. That's the scariest part, sir. The system says the message was sent from the food court terminal. Daniel felt like the ground beneath him shifted. That was where they found Maya's shoe, placed neatly in the center, like someone or something had left it there on purpose. Ravi, Daniel said, listen carefully. Do not tell anyone about this. Not yet. The young guard nodded. Daniel went home after that conversation, but he couldn't stay still. He couldn't let it go. So he made a decision. He was going back to the mall. Not alone. Not at night. He returned the next morning with 2 daytime guards and demanded access to the food court terminal. It was dusty, unused, powered off. He turned it on anyway. There was no other explanation. Booted it up, logged in, checked the login history, and froze. Maya's account, her employee login, was accessed at 3 a.m., 3 a.m., 3:01 a.m., 3:01 a.m., 3:01 a.m., 3:02 a.m., 3:03 a.m., 10 consecutive login attempts, all of them successful. But the terminal's motion detector, a small sensor built into the workstation, recorded something horrifying. No motion detected. Not once. Not for the entire night. The terminal was used without anyone physically sitting in front of it. One guard chuckled nervously. That must be a glitch. Maybe the sensor... Daniel interrupted sharply. No, these sensors don't glitch. They activate even if a fly passes by. The guard's smile dropped. Daniel scrolled further. At 3:01 a.m., the same minute that disturbing message was sent, the terminal webcam activated automatically as part of standard logging. But the file, the webcam recording, was gone. Completely deleted. Only a corrupted thumbnail remained. The thumbnail was small, blurry, distorted, but you could still make out a figure in it. A tall, thin silhouette standing behind the terminal. Not sitting, not facing the screen, just standing there, facing the food court, facing the open space, as if keeping watch, as if waiting. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. This thing was there the entire time. One guard backed away. Nope. I'm done. I'm not staying here. The other guard followed him quickly, refusing to look at the screen again. Daniel remained standing there, staring at that corrupted image. His skin crawled. His mind kept replaying the voice. Maya. He shut the terminal down and left the mall immediately. He quit 2 weeks later. He never stepped foot in that building again. A few months later, one morning, Daniel woke up to a message from Ravi. Sir, I think it came back. Daniel's heart sank. He called Ravi immediately. What do you mean came back? What happened? Ravi's voice trembled through the phone. I wasn't working night shift, but one of the new guards saw something. Daniel closed his eyes. What did he see? He said when he was checking the escalators around midnight. And he saw a woman standing on one of the steps. Daniel's blood ran cold. Was she tall? No. Was she wearing a uniform? Ravi hesitated. Yes, sir. Sir. They think it was Maya. Daniel felt his breath freeze. Ravi continued quietly. The guard said she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't react, just stood there like she was stuck, like she wasn't alive. Daniel whispered. Did her head tilt? Ravi's voice cracked. Yes, almost sideways. Daniel didn't reply for a full 10 seconds. Finally, Ravi spoke again. Sir. The guard ran away. But when he came back with others, she was gone. Daniel sat down slowly. He didn't know if Maya was haunting the mall herself, or if that pale thing was using her appearance, or if whatever took her was showing the guards what it wanted them to see. But he did know one thing. Whatever is in that mall never left, and it was getting stronger, more confident, more present. Daniel whispered one last warning to Ravi. Listen to me. Never go near the food court at night. Never go alone. And if you ever hear your name whispered, don't answer. Just run. And that were 3 disturbing true mall horror stories. Stories that remind us that even the places we think are the safest, brightly lit, crowded, filled with families and security guards, can still hide the darkest secrets in their shadows. If you've ever had a strange experience in a mall, A moment where someone stared a little too long. A voice that whispered from behind a closed gate, or a feeling that something was following you through the aisles. You're not alone. Dark Vision is where we bring those hidden stories into the light. If you enjoyed this video and want more terrifying true stories like these, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us bring more horror from the corners of the real world. This is Dark Vision, and remember, the next horror story might be happening right behind you, without you even noticing. Sleep tight, if you still can.